Welcome to the Classy Career Girl podcast. I'm your host, Anna Runyon, founder and CEO of Classy Career Girl, one of Forbes' most influential career sites. This is a podcast for a community of women who want to turn their passions into work they love. You'll learn how to become happy, successful, and balanced with class, skill, and style. We believe that you can create your future. So stop delaying your great life. Go put yourself out there. You can have your great life and career right now. Hey everyone, it is Anna Runyon. Thanks for tuning in to the Classy Career Girl podcast. Now, behind the scenes, I just want to share with you, it is Monday morning. I have my coffee. My kids just left, so it is just me and you here today. There is quietness in my home, which never happens. So I am excited to dive into 3 strategies for growing a side hustle with you today. So if you don't know me yet, I help women find career fulfillment. I help women go from employee to entrepreneur inside of my membership class. And today I really just want to share my journey of how I went from side hustle to full-time profitable business. I made my dream career and dream life happen, and I created my future, and I want you to do that as well. So flashback to 2010, that is where this little blog called Classy Career Girl started. My life wasn't always happy. My career wasn't always good, and I worked myself really, really hard. I had a lot of stress, a lot of burnout, a lot of overwhelm in my corporate consulting job. I worked there for 8 years and I really dreaded Mondays by the end. Like in the beginning of my career, I loved it. At the end of those 8 years, I was just like, I need to get out. And this was after the 2008 recession. It was an exciting job and it turned into a miserable job because there were layoffs, decreased budgets, and a lot more stress doing 4 people's jobs all by myself because everyone else quit and they didn't rehire them. And so I was literally doing 4 people's jobs. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I was barely making ends meet with my husband. We had a lot of debt. We were overworked. He hated his job as well. But we decided to make this leap. And my husband actually decided to quit his job as well. And my family thought we were crazy when they heard that we were going to start this online business. They were like, what if the internet breaks? So it was kind of like funny because no one really knew what we were doing, what this career was that we were jumping into. I had started this blog, and by 2012, it was starting to gain some traction, some readers, an audience. I had gained confidence because that little blog that I started in 2010 was starting to make a little bit of blog money, like not enough to quit my day job and make it a profitable business. But I was starting to get some traffic to my website. I was starting to get some speaking event offers. I was gaining my confidence. And most importantly, I was really getting clarity. I was starting to be featured in magazines, like People's Style Watch reached out to me, and I was featured in that magazine and just started to realize what I really enjoyed doing. I started to do more teaching and training at my job, and finally found my direction. And that's why I love side hustles, is because they give you so much clarity and direction, and you're not like super stressed because you still have the income coming in from your day job. So by 2013, I was still really stuck at that day job, but I needed the paycheck to pay all the bills, right? I couldn't just quit. And I knew I had more potential and more purpose in my life than sitting in a cubicle all day crunching numbers and, having my bosses and clients get upset with me for stupid little things I couldn't handle anymore. And I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to make change happen. I wanted to grow this company. But it was really hard because I couldn't find the time and we were drowning in debt. And I wanted, that status of the day job of working at a big fancy consulting firm, that people thought was secure and steady and safe and this fancy job. But inside I was miserable. And we were trying to have babies at that point in time and it wasn't working. And I just kept thinking, like, how is my work life going to be able to handle me as a mom someday? Like, I work from sun up to sundown. I get called by my clients on the weekends. I'm traveling once a month from Monday to Friday. Like, how the heck is that going to happen when I have kids? And sometimes I would even go to my car and like cry during lunch break. Like I was like, this is not the place for me. But I didn't know what I was good at. I didn't know what that dream job even was. I just knew my stress was impacting my health. And there was around that time, I tell the story, some of you guys might have heard as well, but I had a breakthrough and kind of like an epiphany when I was unfortunately in a hospital. We were at a wedding in Seattle, and I had just found out I was pregnant. I was literally the happiest I'd ever been. It was the first time I was pregnant. We had tried for a year, and unfortunately, I had a miscarriage. And when the doctor told me, I told the doctor the most irrational thing ever. I said, I hate my job. I need to quit. So, why the heck was I talking about work when I had just lost a baby? And that was really the breakthrough I needed to realize this path is wrong and I needed a change. And so, for a lot of you, we've had a big wake up call over these last couple of years. You realize you want to live that life with no regrets. And I created a new opportunity and a new plan for my life because I knew there had to be some reason and some purpose for my unexpected and hard life events. I knew I had to make more of an impact. I discovered what I enjoyed doing, like teaching and training. And so I just decided I wanted to do more of that and actually get paid for it. And I really just went on that journey to discover more of myself and what career fulfillment was for me. And that really is what a side hustle is all about. And I'm going to go over the 3 strategies, but that's what I really want you to know more than anything is a side hustle really is a journey to discover more of yourself and what makes you happiest, what your passion is, what career fulfillment is. And I just remember I had that point of no return on that hospital bed. I was going to make this happen no matter what. Like I made a decision to make a change, to keep moving forward. And it felt so good. Like when you're going to see when you start doing that side hustle, it just feels so good to finally be on that right path of your dreams and actually taking action towards your vision and your goals. I was just going back and forth with someone in Instagram DM and they were like, you messaged me a year ago and I'm still in the exact same place, right? Like I still haven't made my business happen. And so I want you to make that commitment. And because that's what happened to me. My life turned around after I made a commitment. I got really serious about what my vision was, what my ideal business was. I created a 90-day plan to make it happen. And that next year was amazing. We had our first miracle daughter in 2014. I got clear and focused on what my ideal career was. I committed to it and my business took off. And I was able to quit my day job 6 weeks after she was born. So I took that maternity leave and then I called them up and said, on the day I was supposed to go back, I'm like, I'm not coming back. And I started working on tasks that were finally getting me the results. I was using 15-minute chunks of my day to work on my dream. I had a newborn who was nursing like 24/7. So trust me, I did not have a lot of time, but I did have little 15-minute chunks in my day. And I just started focusing on helping just one person every day. And that started to gain momentum and opportunities came to me. And then my income started to increase as well. So in 2015, that was my first 6-figure year. My husband and I worked full-time together and we traveled to Australia while working. And we really realized like this was the life that we really wanted. And I made my dreams happen, the first dreams that I had. And I just wanted to be that happy working mama. And that's what I was. And so for me, it's way more about my why, my family. My dream was just really so simple. We had another daughter in 2018, and then another one just a year ago in 2021. So it's really fun to be able to have this business now to kind of see how it's grown just from the side hustle. Like that's where it started. And I now make a great living doing what I love. I get to spend time with my family, making an impact. And it really just all started with first identifying that ideal career, that ideal business that I was born to do, creating a 90-day implementation plan, and then focusing on serving others. So I know how to do this all with limited time. And that is why I am excited to dive into the 3 strategies today for growing a side hustle. So we're going to go behind the scenes. I'm going to share, how I started, the things I did, how I grew my side hustle into a full-time business. I've broken it down to 3 main strategies that I believe were the most pivotal in my success. So I know what it's like to have a day job and work on your business in the mornings and evenings and weekends, like 15 minutes here and there. I did not just quit my day job without having income coming in from my side hustle. And so I knew that when I quit my day job, I would make it happen because I was already getting income coming in. So the first strategy that's extremely important, no matter what your business is you have to believe that you can do it. You have to believe that this is going to be a full-time profitable business, even though it feels like a little hobby. One thing that really motivated me during this time is knowing that other people had done it. If others had done it, I can do it too. So I drew so much inspiration from other people. That's really how my blog started. My blog started because I saw other bloggers out there. They were mom bloggers. They were blogging. Actually, I don't know if they were moms at that time. They eventually became moms, but they were blogging and that was their career field. Like they had made a living out of blogging. And I just got so inspired by that. And so every year, especially back then, I would have this vision board. I even had a vision journal that I would carry with me to work so I could look at it while I was stuck in my day job. And I really let myself dream and believe. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was going to quit someday. And so you need to believe too. Like you have to believe in yourself because no one is going to buy from you if you don't believe in you first. I was going to be that happy working mama. It was going to happen. All I needed to do was create a plan and implement that plan, and I wasn't going to fail. The only way I would fail is if I gave up and I decided not to do that, which a lot of people around me did, by the way. There was this time where there were a lot of other people I knew who were also starting businesses, and I was reading their blogs, and they were doing this as well, and they quit. So of course they never reached their dream because they quit. I didn't quit. You have to show up for your side hustle. And this is your year. This is your year of making it and turning it into a full-time thing. You are like the mindset here is you're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. This is not just a hobby. When you leave your day job, you become an entrepreneur. In the mornings, you're an entrepreneur when you wake up. When you walk out the doors of your day job, you're an entrepreneur. On the weekends, you're an entrepreneur. And like I said, if you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe in you and buy from you. So I did not treat this as a hobby. Like in the very, very beginning, I treated it as a hobby because I didn't actually believe I could make this. I didn't even know I could make this my full-time thing. Once I decided I'm going to make this my full-time thing, that was when I stopped treating it as a hobby. I plan to make that leap. I plan to quit my day job. I actually planned to quit a year earlier, but then I got pregnant. And so I decided to wait out the pregnancy to make the leap on after maternity leave. But I could really envision it and I suddenly knew it. I believed, I knew it was going to happen. I knew after maternity leave, I was not coming back. Everyone thought I was coming back after maternity leave, but I knew I wasn't. I worked my pregnant booty off to make it happen. While I was pregnant, I was just like, I gotta work hard right now because when I'm done with maternity leave, I'm gonna be working on my business, but I'm also gonna have a baby. And that was my first, so I had no idea what was coming. I even scheduled Facebook posts not while I was in labor, before I was in labor, but while I was in labor, I had Facebook posts like going out. And some of my friends were like, oh my gosh, she is posting on Facebook while she's in labor. They didn't realize I had actually scheduled all that ahead of time. So I was having content going out those 6 weeks that I was kind of on maternity leave. I had some ads going to bring, that was the first time I did ads in 2014. I had ads going to start to bring people in who wanted to work with me. And so by the time I was done with those 6 weeks after maternity leave, I started inviting those people to a webinar and to sales conversations with me during nap time and the evening hours. And I took calls and had clients. Sometimes I was remembering this. I was holding my baby and I was nursing during client calls. They didn't know it, but I was doing all I could. I was committed to this dream and I didn't know how it was all going to happen, but I was determined. I took calls in the evening. when my baby was asleep. So even when I quit, my side hustle was still on the side because I was figuring out how to be a mom for the first time. And so, like I said, the only way you won't reach your goal is if you give up. So I wasn't giving up. I don't want you to give up either. I want you to really focus on your why, focus on why you're doing this, because it's not always going to be super easy. I was doing it for my family. I was doing it because I just wanted to stay home with my baby. It was going to happen. I had worked for the government during some of those years, and there were people I was working with who literally had on their desk, they had retirement countdown clocks. And I remember asking one of them was training me. She had a couple of years to go to retirement. So she was training me on how to do her job. And I looked at that and was like, what is that? That's a weird clock. And she's like, oh, that's my countdown timer. That is when I could retire. And that's when I first realized, like, I was this young girl this young professional woman who wanted to, become CEO and have a nice fancy career. And it was the first time I realized, like, people hate their jobs. They're literally counting down to retirement. And that was like a red flag. Like, this is not the career for me. This is not where I want to be. People hate their jobs so much they have retirement clocks on their, like, can you imagine going to work and every single day counting it down and being like, okay, one less day to retirement. Like, what a miserable way to live, right? So I did not want to be them. And I just knew and I believed that I could make it happen. So I want you to believe as well. I want you to create that vision board. I want you to think about your why. I want you to think about what your ideal work day would be like when you have that full-time career and that full-time job, and start like, I have a secret Pinterest board where I pin like my vision and where I want to go, because I'm still doing this, right? I still have big dreams and goals and these whys for my family. I'm right there with you doing this for the next year. And part of the vision board and the affirmations I do every single morning is just really believing myself, believing that I can make that happen, and really starting to feel like it's going to happen. That's the switch that I made that I want you to make too. All right, the second strategy for growing a side hustle is actually telling people. I know this is super scary because it's when it's a side hustle, you're still like kind of thinking it's a hobby. Maybe you don't even have any clients yet. It's really scary to tell people, but no one's going to actually hire you and your business isn't going to grow if you don't tell everyone you know. So let's talk about how I did this. Like, in the very beginning, I was an anonymous blogger. My blog did not, for the first 6 months, my blog did not have my name on it, did not have my photo on it. I was scared my boss was going to find out. I did not tell people I had a blog. And there was this change when I really decided this was going to be my full-time career someday. It was the believing part. And it was the believing that I could do this, I would do this, and I would make this commitment, and I was going to make it happen. Once I did that, I decided, okay, people can't really connect with me because I don't have my name and face out there. So I changed that. I put my name out there. I put my picture out there. And the next day I got invited to a speaking event at Wake Forest University. So there was something just about being me and putting myself out there and telling people I was a speaker and telling people I was a career coach. All these things, then opportunities can start to come to you and flow to you, and new sales opportunities can come to you as well when you start telling people what you do. So one of the big strategies I used back in 2013, the early days, 2012, is LinkedIn messages. And I still do some of this today as well. And I do a lot even more with Instagram messages right now. But just DMing people, direct messaging people back and forth. And I would do a lot of reach out on LinkedIn. That was like my main social media strategy when I first started my business. I would just message people I didn't even know. I would invite them to my events, because I started to have events where I would bring people together. So I was also going to other events. I was doing networking parties where I would just bring like 4 people together who I thought would be really beneficial for each other to have in their network. I would just bring them together and we'd have lunch together. And that was like a great way for me to start putting myself out there and for me to start telling people what I did. But here's the thing, I was not selling these people. I was just sharing. I was just being a resource. I was just helping people, even at my own events, right? I was just bringing people together. So I became known as the career coach in San Diego. That's what I wanted to become known as. And just meeting people, just introducing people, just sharing. I was never focusing on selling. And I think that's so important when you're telling people. You're not leaning into a sales conversation. You're just supporting people and helping people, and they're gonna think of you if they need a career coach or whatever your business is. So I want to talk about these were some of my early clients. Some of my early clients was the wife of her husband I went to business school with. And so I was never selling to him. Obviously, he wasn't my ideal client. I don't work with men. And so at no point did I go to him and be like, hey, want to buy my product? But he referred his wife to me because he knew me. He knew I had built up a relationship with him. I had done projects with him in business school. And so he trusted me and he referred his wife to me. And she joined my early Love Your Career Formula program. And I coached her to help her find her new career. She actually had a huge success story. I think she had like a 50% pay raise or something crazy. And it was a huge, huge win for me for those early days, just from having a referral of someone that I went to business school with. I also had 2 people I knew from church who joined my early coaching programs. And those 2 people still, I had never gone to them and tried to sell them into anything. I had just built a relationship with them from seeing them on Sundays and any other, activities that we would go to outside of church. And, they'd ask questions about what I did, and I shared, how work was going and the excitement. That's important, is I was excited about my work. And I was excited about the work I was doing and the wins I was getting and my blog posts. And people see that. People want to be around that energy and that excitement of what you're doing in your business. They're like, I want to have that too, right? And so that's where those 2 people came from. Reaching out after they had gotten to know me from not even my business, from church. There was another girl who became a client, and I just randomly happened to sit next to her at a networking event. And so whenever I go to a networking event, so I'm an introvert, and so I just focus on just meeting one person at a networking event. I don't try and scour the room and meet a million people. I just go to a networking event and hope to establish a relationship with one person. And she was my person. I sat next to her. We introduced each other. I told her what I did. I'd never thought in a million years she would become a client. But then after that event, she reached out to me and was, interested in my services, and she became a client. All from sitting next to her at a networking event. And so attracting clients really comes from that energy, that excitement, like how you show up in the world, how you show up, at church, if you go to church, how you show up at business school, right? How you show up at networking events. It really was how I was showing up to the world. And because I believed this was a real business, this was going to happen. All of those clients came while this was a side hustle, by the way. All of those clients came in the early days when I was hustling my booty off in the evenings and the weekends. All of it came because I was showing up as a business owner outside of my day job. I was sharing about my side hustle. I was calling myself a career coach, even though I wasn't yet. But I really was, because I was starting to help, even if I was starting to help my roommate. She was one of my first clients because she was job searching. And so she didn't actually pay me, but it really helped me to start to get my systems together and to start to help one person every day. And so this was important because even before I was starting to get paying clients, I was still a career coach because I was helping my roommate and I was helping other people. I'd been helping people with their careers all of my life. And so believing that I can help people and that I can make an impact and that I can, become a career coach is so important. So when people ask you, what do you do? This is important. I'm telling people, but I'm not selling. I'm just sharing what I do. I'm just growing my audience in person and online by sharing what I do, not selling them. And this is really important. You can let them ask you how they can become a client. You're not going to go up to people and be like, want to become a client and try and make a sale. you're going to start to build that relationship with people through the excitement of what you do, and let them ask you to work with you. All those people that I just gave you, those referrals that came to me, they asked me how they could work with me. So I'm an introvert, like I said. This really pushed me to get outside of my comfort zone. Doing this, telling people, doing speaking opportunities, like this was not natural whatsoever. So know that even as an introvert, you can still grow your business, focusing on just helping one person every day. One of the big things I did in the early days is I did a 4x4 networking challenge, and I'm going to do a whole podcast on this challenge that I did for myself. But basically, it involved meeting every month with 4 people I did know and 4 people I did not know but wanted to get to know. And I would do informational interviews. I would do these coffee chats every single month. I was really focused on building my network and meeting people that could help me in the future, that I could learn from. And so one of the big mistakes is just relying solely on social media right now. I feel like this is a big mistake everyone is making right now, because we're just coming off a pandemic where we were doing a lot of Zooms and we were doing a lot of just social media all day. It's really important when you're building a business that you're building in-person connections, and then also you're growing your social media accounts as well. So my clients came 50-50, like, half came from social media all over the world, people I had never met, which was really cool to have clients all over the world. And then half came from those networking events, from referrals, from people I was meeting in real life in the early days. So people who knew me, they weren't my clients. It was the ones who kind of knew me. Those were the ones that really became my clients, because in the early days, people could not imagine Anna Runyon was starting her business. I was often the shy girl in college and high school, and no one actually really knew what I was doing. This just seemed super weird for my close friends and my family. This career field was super unknown to me and super weird, and they would never become my clients or really refer people because it didn't really match up with where they thought I was going, right? So it took us some while for me to be able to find those people in my life who weren't my close family and friends. So this is why I never recommend your first clients for your side hustle should not be your close family and friends. Now, they can be supportive for you in the beginning. Like I mentioned earlier, my first client was my best friend, my roommate, and I helped her with her career change and her job search. So they can be supportive. But your first paying clients, I'm talking about your first paying clients, are going to be those people who kind of know you. They're not going to be your close family and friends. And so focus on finding those people and expanding those connections with the people. It could be the alumni at your university. It could be, your former coworkers, your friends of friends. Like I told you, those first clients of mine were the wives of people I went to business school with, 2 people from church, someone I randomly met at a networking event. Those are going to be what are really going to grow your business from those 50% of people that you actually know. And then the other 50% are those people that you're going to meet through Facebook groups, through Instagram, through LinkedIn. And so that was really how I started to build up my confidence and started to tell people what I did. And the confidence comes the more you talk about what you do and start to introduce people to what you do and the work that you do, the easier it'll become. So the third strategy then for growing your side hustle, this is really important. I want you to work on your own goals before your boss's goals. So that means those early morning hours. Before you go to work, before you go to your day job, we're going to prioritize you, yourself, and your goals. And so my schedule as a side hustler, the second I was at work, I was at work. But when I left, I was a business owner. I was an entrepreneur. And so I would wake up in the morning, even if it was just 15, 30 minutes before I had to work, I made sure that time counted. That was for me. That was my future. That was my vision. I had a clear plan of the cash that I needed to bring in for my business so that I could quit my day job. And so I started to be able to in those early morning hours and the weekends and the evenings, I was starting to bring in a small amount of cash. And at that time, then I hired a bookkeeper and a virtual assistant. So my virtual assistant was amazing. I hired her, gosh, I think it was 2011. Shout out to Lore. She helped me in the very beginning. She was in the Philippines. And so when I would go to sleep at night, like I did all the work that I could, but I also had a day job and I needed my sleep. So I would do all the work I could in the evening hours. And then I would pass it off to Lore, who had just woken up for her day shift. And she would work on Classy Career Girl while I slept. And then I would wake up in the morning. So I was always like super excited to jump out of bed in the morning because Laura had grown my business while I slept. And we were moving further faster because I was replacing myself and I was delegating. I was starting to learn about leadership. And I started to get a really good handle on where we needed to go and how I could get help and support in doing that. And I also got really clear on like the money that I needed to make in order to be able to quit my day job and to be able to have that full-time business for myself. So this is really important. Like, make yourself a priority. Make yourself and your goals a priority. Work on your own goals. Otherwise, by the time that you go to work, you're going to start working on your boss's goals, your CEO's goals. I know I'm like, eventually then you're working on your kids' goals and your husband's goals and your mother-in-law's goals and all these things. And you get to like 10 o'clock at night. I don't know if this happens to you. It happens to me. And I'm like, where did the day go? Like, at no point in my day did I work on my goals. And that is why it's so important. Like, we're in charge of our day from that first point that you wake up in the morning. That's your time. And so I always explored every opportunity to learn more at my day job as well. Like, I asked my boss to shadow human resources to learn more about what they did. I was also a professor in the evenings at DeVry University, and I did teaching on the training team at my company, Booz Allen Hamilton. So, and then eventually I became an adjunct professor at my company too. So I say all this so you guys know, like, even at my day job, even while I still had that day job, I took every possible opportunity to expand my skill set, knowing that someday I want to be a teacher, a trainer. I want to have this business, creating courses and coaching others. I took every training offered by leadership. I took every penny in tuition assistant to learn more and to grow more. And I just knew in the future that this would be of value to me as a business owner. And so I took work trips. This was interesting. That first speaking event, that invitation that I got at Wake Forest University, I used one of my work trips to get out there. And then I spoke at that university and I did my job, but I had my work pay for the travel for that university trip, speaking event. And so I was always like thinking of creative ways about how I could continue to get my brand out there while still not quitting, because I didn't want to quit until I had that income coming in. I also used those long flights to blog. So when I was working, I would go from San Diego to Atlanta to Charleston. Those were long travel days. And so those were like, if I was traveling on a Monday and Friday, I would use those while I was on those flights. I would work on my business and work on my blog. And I was just always getting ideas from my work as well. So I never was like upset at my day job. I was never, even though I was so stressed and overwhelmed, I was always extremely grateful for my day job. And I was always figuring out ways, how can I use that day job so that it can benefit me in the future? And so I was getting a lot of ideas. Like, obviously I was seeing things that were working in the workplace and not working, and I was blogging about that. I was just always staying inspired and trying to provide value. And I was just so motivated to make change in the world. Those were fun days. Those early days are so fun. And I know if you're in the side hustle stage, you think this is overwhelming and crazy, but just remember, someone like me looks back at those days with like fond memories, because there was no fear. I was just going to start helping people. And I just had so much excitement about the future and helping people. And I was just testing people and starting to like see what was going to work. And, I remember the first sale, like there's nothing that can replace that feeling of getting your first sale. There's nothing that can replace that feeling of like hitting your monthly goals. So I had these like monthly goals of my revenue that I needed to make. And as I started to get closer, I started to realize like, this really is possible. I really can quit my day job because I'm getting closer and closer to that goal of when I can quit. And it's just so exciting. Like if I could go back to those early days and just like that feeling of how exciting it was when you're working on your passion and you're doing something that you've always wanted to do, and you start to do the 3 strategies here, you start to really believe in yourself and you start to tell people, and people are really interested in what you're doing, and you're inspiring other people. And then you're using those morning hours before you go to work and you're moving your business faster. Maybe you're doing the same thing. You're hiring that bookkeeper and that VA, and you're really starting to treat this as a real business. If you do those 3 things, you're going to move forward faster. You're going to get so much closer to having this be your full-time career. Like just staying consistent and not giving up. And if you do these things, you're going to have a full-time business in no time. So I'm super excited for you to take this side hustle and to make more impact in the world. Whatever you do, just don't give up. Because like I said, that's the only way that you're not going to reach your goal of making this a profitable full-time business is if you don't give up. I didn't talk about all of the failures I had throughout this whole time. I didn't talk about things, that didn't work, the products I sell that didn't work, and the things that were just like, the bad thing, the failures and part of my journey. But the big thing is I didn't give up after those failures. When I had to close a membership site, I had to, I had products that didn't sell that I thought would. I had bad feedback one time from a speaking engagement, and I just learned so much from those opportunities, even those failures, even the feedback I was getting from other people. That was all important to me and added up to where I am today. So know that you can take that side hustle, you can turn it into your perfect business career, and I'm excited for you. So let me know how it goes. If you listen to this, just send me a message on Instagram at Classy Career Girl and let me know what you thought. If you want to find a job or business you love that supports the life you really want, you are invited to my membership class, the Love Your Work and Life System. Inside of class, you are going to get support and coaching so you can make money doing what you love. Whether you're job searching or growing your own business, I'll guide you through a success path full of step-by-step guides and tools to help you implement and make progress to take you from work you have to do to work you love to do. It's time to have a career or business you love that supports the life you really want. Go to www.classycareergirl.com/start to get started.